I am going to give the floor to Elisa Torrenegra from a Colombian association and who is in charge of the network in South America, and she is going to moderate this meeting. So I'm going to give her the floor.
Muy buenos días a todos y todas los que nos
Good morning, everyone who are here with us today during this beautiful meeting. My name is Elisa Torrenegra. I manage Gestar Salud, and I'm the administrator of the Solidarity and Education Network, Education Solidarity Network. I also chair the International Fora. I'm part of the Americas Mutuality, and I would like to greet all the representatives from Colombia, America, and the world. Let me just remind you what this network is all about. It's an international organization that was set up in 2009. It's the International Mutual Organization from France, as well as the International Mutual Organizations. And together with the support of the ILO, we initiated our activities. Currently, the RES brings together more than 45 organizations from the education and health realms from all over the world. We're speaking about trade unions, social economy organizations, NGOs, researchers, social security institutions, and a whole list of organizations whose main goal is to promote the health of educational communities and to expand social security systems based on solidarity. Now, this network was originally set up understanding that health, social protection, and education depend on one another. First, because to improve social security, social protection of the teaching staff contributes to the quality of the education as well as the school success of all students. And secondly, because education is key in order to achieve social change, because it impacts behaviors, attitudes, and this ongoing change is important because thanks to education, young people can become adults who can make choices, healthy choices in their lives. And obviously, if we act on education and we work together with the young people, we do so that their health and their living standards improve today, but also so that they become aware of how responsible they are to create these solutions themselves. So educational communities as well as social security agents play a vital role in creating what we can call a genuine culture of social protection and solidarity all over the globe. We find similar situations that young people are facing in the Americas, in Africa, in Europe, in Asia, everywhere. So we might see differences in the context, the language, or the culture. However, through our education and solidarity network, we can work on a very broad range of population on this important change for their present and their future. One of the main missions of this network is to facilitate the exchange of best practices all over the world on how to expand social protection systems and solidarity systems, which is why we invited you all today to be here and to share and discover educational experiences based on social protection that have been carried out by members of the RES network. So the goal during this meeting is to inspire, to be an example for best practices, as well as to kickstart this series of meetings among the different members of the network. So it is extremely important for us to be able to be active listeners today. And whenever we want to participate or to expand our knowledge, we do so through the chat function so that this event is enriching for us all. I believe that you can see on the screen the different locations where all of you as members of this network are situated. You can see that we are connected all over the world through education and solidarity, which is amazing. We're talking about co-ops and social organizations, all of them on the map. And I feel goosebumps when seeing that this education-led initiative revolves around health, and especially with the work with our young fellow citizens. So we have an agenda. We're going to be hearing from Victoria Castella Giro, Vicky, an old-time friend. Thank you very much for being here with us. She works at the International Labor Organization or office in Geneva, and she will give us an introduction about our role as a network and how we can create a culture of social protection to be able to achieve this universally. And right after her, we will be hearing from different members of the network and who will tell us about some experiences. So during this panel, what we want to do is to show a wide array of experiences and how to become more aware about social protection. They have all been real experiences of these social security organizations, social economy and solidarity organizations who work with the educational communities in the region with a different view from all across the globe, because this is an international issue. And they will also share with us some national and local projects. Obviously, they deal with different issues. Some of them have to do with social protection from the point of view of how these systems work in their country, the coverage range of these social protections, what are the foundations for each of those systems, what are the educational systems at hand, as well as the tools to empower our citizens in our different countries. But it's important to understand the structure available in our country, and by the same token be active and listen to what's out there so that we can offer the best result to our young people. And finally, we will also be hearing different examples of different tools, WebEx platforms, meeting from young people, comic books, etc. So this is an agenda that we came up with, which is quite diverse, and I believe will give you a whole slew of examples from all over the world that can be indeed very educational. There will be a Q&A afterwards. You will be able to ask questions after the presentation, and please use the chat if you want to say something. And towards the end of the meeting, there will be one final roundtable discussion. We'll speak about the role of digital tools, and we will give you the floor so that you can suggest digital tools that can come in handy in this sector, things that have been brought up during this meeting or other examples that you can share with us so that we can reinforce the social protection and health messages in all of our communities based on our needs. So I will now give the floor to Victoria Giro from the Social Protection Department of the ILO, and she will give us an introduction about the topic. Thank you so much, Vicky, for being here with us, and welcome. Thank you, Elisa. It's a pleasure to be here with you. As Elisa said, I work at the ILO, at the International Labor Organization based in Geneva. I work for the Social Protection Department, and I'm in charge of communication and the whole publishing or editorial program, and specifically about social protection. I'm very thankful to the network for having invited me to this event. We have a long-standing collaboration between the network and BIT ever since the very beginning. I'm from Argentina. Unfortunately, I can see that there are a lot of Spanish speakers, but I already prepared this presentation in French. So I'm sorry about that, but my colleagues from the ILO in Ecuador will speak Spanish. So we will be hearing both languages.
Donc, la protection sociale est un droit humain.
Okay, so social protection is a human right. Could we move to next slide, please? we have Articles 22 and 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that states that everyone as a member of society has the right to social security and is entitled to realization through national effort, etc. Next slide. And despite, no, that's the previous slide. Oh, there's one missing. There should be one slide with figures. Move on. No, still not. How interesting. There's one slide missing. Never mind. I'll send you the presentation with this missing slide, which is very strange because I have it just in front of me and it has the slide. What I wanted to say is that despite much progress and improvement being made, human rights, the human right to social protection is not a reality for the vast majority of the population, the global population. Less than half, 46.9%, is covered by at least one social protection benefit. The vast majority, 4 billion people around the world, have no social protection at all. And there are huge inequalities between regions. The COVID-19 crisis has really revealed the devastating impact of this lack of social protection. And we know that social protection requires resources, financial and technical resources, but this is a human element, this is a human aspect, and we're all concerned. So before I move on, I would like to quote the General Director of the IoT. Last week in the World Forum, Global Forum of our organization, he said, and you can see it on the screen, when we talk about social protection, at the end of the day, we're talking about human rights. If 4 billion people do not have social protection, this is a massive denial of human rights. Social protection is an act of solidarity and a putting together the risks for the benefit of all. The implementation of a universal social protection is a major challenge in terms of investment and requires solidarity. I found this quote last week while preparing this presentation, and I thought it was most relevant. So it is an act of solidarity of the entire society to face risks together. And social protection and the costs are linked to various aspects: lack of investment, lack of capacity, political investment, lack of political will, amongst others. But without solidarity, it is impossible to have social protection. Solidarity between the rich and the poor, between the healthy and the not healthy people, but between generations as well, and between countries, developed, less developed, etc. Another human dimension is trust. Trust of the population in their social protection system. And this plays a crucial role. Employees and employers who do not trust the system will not really have an incentive to contribute and be part of that system. In our countries, we are told that the lack of trust is the major challenge. I don't know where we are in terms of slides. I think we have to move to the next one. However, it's not a question of communication and information sharing. That's not enough to create this trust. The beneficiaries must understand fully what social protection means, and they have to know that the system is effective, efficient, reliable, and well governed. And all this is at the basis of this social protection culture that has to go through education. Experience shows that countries that have largely extended the social protection have done it through programs to develop a culture of social protection in with all stakeholders. And this is the case of Uruguay, and we'll have a presentation on this afternoon. In order to share the values, principles, rights, and obligations, but also sharing about the way the system works. And creating such a culture is a long-term investment involving various sectors and a dedicated strategy. Each country has to have its own strategy, its own recipe, depending on the social contract, the specificities, the needs, the beliefs of the country, and therefore the objectives, the targets of the culture of this culture will vary from one country to another. The implementation of a social protection culture is based on a strong political will over time. This does not happen overnight, and this is not once and for all. It's an ongoing effort. There are, however, a few priority target groups, such as political actors, because they are the decision makers in terms of social protection, not just the ministers and the people who work for the ministries of labor, solidarity, but also the finance ministries, because they have the resources and they have to be convinced that investing in the social protection is profitable. And we have also all the workers, the employers who have to declare their employees and contribute. And they also play a very important role in terms of control to make sure that the law is complied with. And the beneficiaries must know their rights and their entitlements, but also their obligations in order to use the system in a responsible way. It's particularly important for the informal economy, the workers of the informal economy, who in most cases are excluded from these social protection systems, and they do not know the system. Therefore, the efforts to reach out to them depend on the capacity of the government to disseminate information about the importance of the social protection and about how it works and how they can use the system. The employees of the ministries that are in charge of disseminating the information and to advise beneficiary also play a crucial role, but also young people, children who must carry with them all the values of this social protection, and young people who are just about to embark on their labor path. They must know what it means to start a job in the informal economy or not. So ILO promotes and wishes to extend these cultures of social protection so that the systems can work well. Since the beginning, we have been working to raise awareness with governments, ministries, employees, employers, etc. So the ILO contributes to the creation of this culture of social protection through different actions at 3 different levels: at the global level, national level, but also through knowledge management, through the gathering of knowledge and through the dissemination of this knowledge. But I'll come back to it. At global level, ILO works on advocacy with the various stakeholders, donors, social partners, etc. I talked about the solidarity at global level, i.e. developed countries must be aware of the issues and challenges for less developed countries. And it is important for social protection to develop in less developed countries. It is not a choice, it is a human right, and it has to be complied with. And it is a profitable investment. The ILO would like to go further and to reach out to a larger audience. We haven't done it so far. We've done it indirectly, but we're starting to do things very concretely and very directly at global level. Things are changing. We're beginning to reach out to population at the global level. We work with the School of Social Protection in France on a MOOC, a massive online course, university course. It will be a course online in French, English, and Spanish to present social protection to different target audience. Is very simple with videos. We explain what it's all about, and we aim students, university students, but we also want agents of the United Nations to take this course, because it's important for everybody to know what it's all about in the field of development. And these modules that have been simplified, we want to simplify them even further so that we can reach children through their teachers. So this is a project, and we'll make good progress. The MOOC will be online in August or September of this year. My colleagues will tell you more about their experiences and the various initiatives of ILO with governments, such as Ecuador, but other countries as well. We do have cooperation projects, technical cooperation or technical assistance projects, and we always try to include an element of creation of a culture, usually working on an education strategy that we try to implement. And we have started some activities. For example, in Cambodia, the project is now finished, but the strategy is being implemented, and it works. It works well. We work in Senegal with a strategy of education for the informal economy. We work in Vietnam for the whole population, and in other countries for young people. So what do we do in terms of knowledge production? ILO works with other partners to draft a guide, a practical guide that will give guidelines for the implementation at national level of programs. As I said, there are no magic recipe, but there are guidelines that can be very helpful. What do others do? What do they think? Why did they do it that way? These are things that we try to draft. It was already prepared 2 years ago, but because of the pandemic, we had stopped working on it, but we are still working on it with that national school in France.
So impact on investment on social security, on growth and economy. So the goal is to raise awareness, especially for ministers of finance. And I'm talking about creating cultures here. We showed what happens when you invest in social security. How does economy grow? So we consider that this is, creating a new type of culture. And why do we do this? Because a group of ministers of 19 countries in Africa asked the ILO to work on this because they do not have any good arguments to convince to invest in social security. So that's why we are doing, and this is something that will be published this year. And so lastly, and I'm almost done, I would like to talk about the main role of partnerships such as the Education and Solidarity Network and also the École nationale supérieure de sécurité sociale in France, and also partnerships with governments and national social security institutions, social partners, organizations from the civil society. They all have a role to play because creating a culture of social protection, as I said many times, is about all of us. So I'm finished now. I'll be connected until 5 p.m. So I think we'll be able to talk about other topics later on. Thank you very much. And you have the floor, Elisa.
Muchas gracias, Vicky, por tu
Thank you so much, Vicky, for your introduction. This has set the scene for our meeting today. So let's begin then with the presentations of initiatives on social protection culture. We're going to start with 4 presentations on initiatives that have been undertaken by a social security school and organizations of the SSE. So I will now give the floor initially to Céline Dubois and Anne-Laure Mace, who are from the youth department of the National School of Social Security in France. So they will present an experiment surrounding a comic that they have undertaken on solidarity and fraternity for children of 8 to 11 years old. So you have the floor.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. So my name is Céline Dubois, and I'm going to hand over directly to Laure Anne, who's going to talk about the comic strip in details, or the cartoon in details. But I'd like to talk about the backdrop of this experiment. And so in our school, we try to have this educational mission on social protection, and we started in 2015. And we've got partnerships in coordination and design of resources, of educational mechanisms and tools, and that's for a target of 16 to 25 years old. And we want to reinforce the learnings on social citizenship, and we want this to be part and parcel of curricula. And in France, whether it's a problem or an opportunity, I don't know, but social protection is not a subject as such in schools. So we need to find some other gates, entry gates and cross-sectional approaches. So maybe we can move on to the next slide. Laurent, maybe? So up until now, schools had been, our school had been working with 16 to 25 years old. So we've got educational mechanisms for students and teachers of secondary education. And last year we decided to enlarge our approach and to have a wider target of children from what we call cycle 3 at school. So that's year 5 and 6 at primary school. And within this context, in 2021, we had this new idea that was launched. We wanted to have a pedagogical activity on solidarity, fraternity, and the values of commitment, and something that would be co-built with all the teachers and the students. And this is a part of a civic and ethical teaching. So we've got different goals. We want, first of all, to illustrate what solidarity is in society, and we want to show what is the place of social protection and how is it going to be embodied. And also we want children to find themselves, to figure out their positions within this community of solidarity, starting from daily life experiences. So we want to rely on basic skills, such as reading, writing, numeracy, and the respect of others. So now I'll hand over to Laure-Anne, and she's going to present the experiment and the content of this cartoon. Yes, opening the mic, everything goes better. And so, hi everyone. So the idea of this experiment, let me tell you the setting in which it occurred. So we worked with 11 classes of year 5 and 6. Some classes were with both ages, others were with just one year. And so they come from elementary schools or primary schools from the Loire and Rhône regions. And all in all, we had 273 pupils and 14 teachers or school managers. And also, we worked with one cartoonist, and this person also came to the different classrooms to present the cartoon, the comic strip. So the comic book is called One Another, and we work on different scenes, different stories, and they all happen in a classroom of year 5 and 6 of primary school. So at school, and the school is called Simon Veil. So you can just see on the screen the first images, the first sketches, working on the characters and on the school where the stories are set. So all the places and sceneries and characters have been invented from scratch within this experiment, and each character, main character, secondary character, have special identities, specific personalities, and they are well identified within the community of the classroom. And here you can see one of the pages of this comic book, and each story, well, deals with a key concept that has to do with a specific risk of social protection. It can be family, aging, health, disability, employment. And so the project that was imagined by the students includes 8 stories, and 3 of those stories were selected and are going to be developed and illustrated in this experiment. So the students, first of all, had worked on the stories, and the illustrator used these stories and the work with the students to build the first 3 stories that we have here. And so we've got the dancing goat, and it talks about sharing and redistributing. This is what you see on screen right now. And so you can just see one of the small scenes with one character talking about the key concepts. And then we've got the lady from the 3rd floor, and this is an ongoing project, and it talks about losing autonomy when you're an elderly person, and also talks about intergeneration solidarity. So you've got on the left-hand side a small image of that. You always have the same pet in this comic book, so that it asks a question and it can start a debate in the classroom with a teacher. And we'll also give an educational kit for teachers that will come with the comic book and to talk about protection and social protections. So now I'll hand over to you again, Céline. Yes. So this is still an experiment, and so we're testing the different stories in reality in the classrooms with the illustrators, the teachers, and the children, of course. And the goal is to finish off the 3 stories before June 2022 this year. And to give you some first feedbacks of this experiment, what we see is we've got some strong points, but also some prerequisites that we had from the very beginning. So I didn't give you the whole details, but this was co-built with the Ministry of Education. We had a steering committee and we had teachers and so on. But one of our first goals is to make sure that children are the actors of the comic book and of the experiment. So obviously in the experiment, children are actors as such because they choose the settings, the characters, they have to give their opinions on the script, and also the scripts will be adapted along the time. So they almost commission the stories. And then also we want to make sure that the teachers can take ownership of this tool very easily, very smoothly. So we want to deploy this tool in all schools in France and make it available for teachers as an educational tool. So we want to have a full kit which will be available. So we'll have the comic book, and also we'll have some theme based sheets, and where you can have some other ideas for the teachers to experiment, to open up new dialogues. And also we want to look at interdisciplinarity. The comic book allows to work on different subjects, math, reading, writing, but also plastic arts or theater sometimes. So it's almost infinite, the possibilities you can use when you have a comic book. And also we want to have very fruitful exchanges between teachers and students. This is a fun format, quite attractive. Children like it very much, as we could see. And one of the other goals we had were, and we're not really, we haven't reached it yet, sorry. And so that's actually why we chose a comic book and a paper support, because we want to have some material coming to homes, and we want to include family structures. So in the stories, we are going to work on issues such as accessing rights and other issues that are also of importance for the parents or grandparents of the children involved. So this is what we can say as of now in a short summary about our current experiment. So thank you very much for your attention, and we'll be able to answer your questions after all the different presentations are made. We can see here just the children and the illustrator. And so they obviously used the presence of the illustrator to have a higher level of proficiency in terms of drawing.
Thank you, Celine and Laurent, for this interesting presentation. We will leave the questions for the first 2 initiatives for after the first 2 presentations. So now we will move on to Frédéric Lamar from a large mutual benefit society. It's a mutual benefit society of French educators, and they're going to present an educational tool for promoting the social and solidarity economy. So welcome, Frederick, and we'd like to hear about your experience.
Bonjour Elisa, bonjour à toutes et tous. Je ne suis pas Frédéric Lamar.
Hi, Elisa. Hi, everyone. I'm not Frédéric Lamar. Frédéric is in the room next door, but today Pierre and myself are going to introduce you to this tool called Kesako. So we are all activists and at the MGN Mutual Insurance Company. It's a French mutual insurance company for life and non-life. And so we want to actually teach about social protection within school curricula. And so we've got this exhibition, which was made by MGN members and activists. They all come from the education system. They're all teachers in France. And this exhibition was designed by teachers for teachers. And so to make a link with what Emma was saying earlier and all the goals of ILO, we want to create a social protection culture so that as many people as possible can access this type of this culture. And so the goal of this exhibition, as you can see, is to raise awareness to solidarity and social economy, and we want to talk about social protection. So who are we targeting? Well, we are talking about all the students, if we compare to the previous tool we just saw, because we are talking about high school students or sixth form students and also higher education students, so between 12 and 24 years old. So where do we have this exhibition? In France, obviously, and also at schools and universities, because we are part of school curricula. This exhibition is organized by us, DMG, and members and activists. And so historically speaking, our mutual insurance company is set up in the education environment. I'll hand over the floor to my colleague Pierre, who's going to give you a bit more details about the content of this exhibition called Kesako. Next slide, please. So it is made of 9 just posters. And so you've got 4 examples on the screen. At MGN, we have an exhibition in each of our offices, provincial offices, to be very close to people. And we also just lend this exhibition to schools for free. So this includes high schools up to universities. Next slide. As I was telling you just before, this Kesako exhibition allows us to talk about social protection through the lens of mutual insurance companies and social and solidarity-based economy. So in France, mutual insurance companies are companies from the private rights, and so they've got life and non-life coverages, and on top of the social protection given by the French state. The specific aspect of French mutual insurance companies, and I know this is the case in other countries where there are some mutual insurance companies, is they are managed by their own members and according to a democratic modality. So in France, we've got 1 person out of 6 being a member of a mutual insurance company. And as for MGN, we've got 4 million people protected by by our mutual insurance company. So it's one of the first mutual insurance companies in France. So obviously we want to talk about social protection, but also about all the other topics related to solidarity and democratic values in order to build this social protection. I'll hand over to Pierre again to talk to you about the pedagogical kit, which includes an exhibition, but also something else. Over to you, Pierre. So on top of this exhibition, we created this educational manual to be used in different classes, classrooms, so that's for teachers. And this tool is a completely different pedagogical tool, so we can have different types of educational approach and make sure that students know about solidarity and social protection. So it's a different way of learning about it. That's it. Thank you. This is what we wanted to say about our tool. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias a ustedes por compartirlos.
Thank
Vamos
you so much. We're now going to hear some of the questions on some of the experiments and experiences that we have heard. Has anyone got their hand up? Does anyone want to ask a question? Luis, can you give me a hand?
Now, if you have any question, I mean, I haven't seen any question in the chat, but if anybody wants to make a comment, we have a few minutes now to do so. Otherwise, we can move on to the next presentations, and we'll have other moments to have a Q&A session anyway.
Perfecto, entonces hagámoslo de esa manera. Si no hay preguntas en este momento, pasamos a la
Okay,
siguiente.
so if there are no more questions, then we can move on to the next presentation. So this is a tutoring program from Canada for young people. You have the floor, Michelle.
Good morning. It's Michelle from Norwest Co-op Community Health Center in Winnipeg. I'm with the Hands High Youth Program, and with me is...
I'm Dan Otsuris. I'm the health promoter here at Norwest Co-op.
Thank you so much for having us here today from snowy Winnipeg. So we will go to the next slide. So we're talking about our Youth Hands Kai program. So Hands Kai is a program that we have seen through the cooperatives in Japan, and it literally translates into group meetings from Japanese. So we actually have adapted it both for adults and youth, but we're going to focus on the youth piece because that's what we do with the schools. So it's a leadership and mentorship project that is based for youth ages 15 to 21. And it really focuses on empowering participants to take steps to maintain and improve their health and well-being. And this is really suited for young people for what makes sense for them, not necessarily what adults think they should be focused on. So we actually really want to make sure that it has that leadership and mentorship component, and that they do something in the schools around the issues that are important to them. So we can go to the next slide. So we started the program in 2013 by working with a group of university students. It was an across Canada project developed by Norwest. And those students helped us create a curriculum for what the Hands Kai Youth Project would look like. So we then piloted it to local high schools. And then the youth helped us figure out not just what the topics and activities would look like, but really how to deliver them. So it has now become a part of the high schools in Winnipeg that we work with. It's become a part of their family studies curriculum. And the expectation is that when we do it as part of the curriculum, that the youth either take the topics and do something within the school around those topics, or that they actually teach other students in the school the same kind of information. Okay, perfect. And so we'll go to the next slide. So I'm going to start to turn it over to Dano. So when we do go into the schools, we go into the actual classrooms themselves. It is a class of youth. And we have 9 sessions where we essentially teach them so that they can teach others.
All right, you can go to the next slide. So I'm just going to go through the 9 sessions that we deliver to the youth. Is the sound okay now? I know we were having some issues. Can you hear me okay? Okay, perfect. So the first session is what makes us healthy, and this is sort of the introduction to the health school and to Hands Kai Youth. and where youth begin to develop health-related goals, and we have conversations surrounding what makes us healthy. And then we move into health and sexuality. And this is really where we talk about sexual health, sexually transmitted infections, and how to have conversations surrounding safe and consensual sex, whether it's with friends or your partner. And then we move into nutrition. This is usually delivered by a dietitian on our team. And we teach them how to navigate food guides, healthy eating, and learning the difference between healthy diets and dieting. You can go to the next slide. And then there's physically active. And this is learning the benefits of being physically active and discussing the barriers to being physically active. It's about developing healthy habits like early on. And then we also talk about supplements and steroids, and even we take a look at maybe social media and a lot of fitness influencers on there, and sort of the what is real, what is not, and what are goals that you should set for yourself. And then there's the healthy relationships, which is learning to identify healthy and unhealthy, safe and dangerous patterns in relationships. This is often, a time where youth are making long-lasting relationships in their life. So that's a very important topic. And then we're also discussing gender roles and creating healthy relationships. And then the sixth session is drugs, alcohol, and smoking. And this is about learning the risks of drugs and alcohol and how to be safe at parties, and learning about, various health services, whether it's over the phone or in person, that youth can access in a local context, and how to create safety plans when there's substances at a party or an event. Next slide, please. And then there's coping and mental health. And so this is about identifying the symptoms of stress, gaining strategies on how to cope with them, with stress, and gaining understanding of short-term or long-term coping mechanisms. We usually play a game where we show different kinds of coping mechanisms, like working out, but then also maybe alcohol or cigarettes, and sort of get them to assess, is it a long-term or short-term coping mechanism. And then there's values, rights, and boundaries. And this is understanding the difference between values and rights. This is often when a lot of youth become opinionated in their life. So it's good to know the difference between the two, and learning how to set up boundaries with people in your life, whether it's friends, partners, parents, whatever. And then the last one is self-acceptance, and this explores personality traits, one's role in social circles and family dynamics, and discussing moving forward as a Hands Kai youth group. And I'm going to hand it over to Michelle now. Thank you.
Great. So next slide, please. So as we said, we then work with the youth to ensure that the topics and sessions are interactive and participant-led. So we don't want to have the traditional role as teacher. We really wanted to have the students themselves being very interactive and leading the session. Really, we kind of guide the discussion more than actually lead it. And so we really do focus on having the social supports as the vital aspect to their health and well-being. And I don't know that's on the slide here, but I do want to say one of the things that we're most proud of with this program is that youth, the three things that stand out for me is when we've done the program, youth had lost their student council, and after attending the Hands Kai session, they actually lobbied their school to bring back their student government and be able to participate that way. They've also organized walks against bullying and have lobbied the cafeteria to serve healthier options. So next slide, please. So yes, as I mentioned, they take on projects that mentor their peers to make healthy lifestyle choices. So they've also run little health sessions within their school, and they take the lead in developing their own health projects, as I had mentioned. And then I'm going to turn it over to Dano for our next slide.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of successes with the program, and to date, over 200 youth, local youth, have completed the program. And as Michelle said, they take on projects such as developing media campaigns in their school, changing cafeteria food, and raising awareness for relevant social issues. And there's one more slide, I believe. And here's just some of the feedback from youth. Yeah, we've had a lot of success with it, and they always look forward to having us.
Yeah. We have just some quotes directly from the youth themselves, and I think that will take us to the end of our presentation. Thank you so very much.
Muchísimas gracias a ustedes, Michelle, Danu. Miren que ellos...
Thank you so much, Michelle and Danu. They're in Canada. We already heard our colleagues from France, and we're seeing that we're talking about the same problems and needs all over the globe. We will now give the floor back to France. We're going to be listening to Sophie Ben from ESN, the ESN organization from France. They will tell us about an educational game called Co-op Addict. So, Sophie, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Merci beaucoup de me
Hello
donner
to all of you. Thank you for giving me the floor. I am going to present this program on the prevention of addictive behaviors. You see the 4 characters. They're very important because they are part of the game. So a few elements to about the background. We're talking about psychoactive products or addictive behaviors such as screen binging. And Co-op Addict has been developed to address the psychosocial skills of young people in order to avoid addiction risks. Co-op Addict is a comprehensive prevention program that meets the needs of schools in terms of prevention of addictive behaviors for young people, and it is based on a game dimension. So it's between an escape game and a role game. So there is a game with an educational guide for the moderator. And Co-op Addict invites the students to ask themselves a few questions and to think, observe, analyze, and understand the addiction process so that they can take a position regarding choices and consequences. It's not a judgmental dimension or way of dealing it, but we want young people to think about the process. ESN has worked on the various scenarios of the game, and game specialists and experts have helped us to develop these games in order to develop further the psychosocial skills of young people while still being very playful. We have also used the feedback we had from our volunteers in the civic service. We work with partners throughout France, so we have listened carefully the feedback from the volunteers when they have a direct exchange with students and pupils, because we wanted to stay very close to the problems they have in the field. So there are 5 sessions in the program. So it is a playful approach. And in each session, we deal with one particular topic: dependence, pleasure, freedom, the influence of the group, and values. So at each session, we're going to focus on one of those topics. You see here the pictures of the 5 game boxes. So it's a game. In each box, you have also the guide, and all the boxes are the same, but they have a different title. There are two versions, one aimed at secondary school pupils, 11 to 13 years old, and then to higher levels in secondary school, 14 to 18 years of age. So we adapt the scenario so that it's perfectly adapted to that age range. For good ownership of the game and the prevention program, there are trainings that are organized so that moderators can learn how to use the game and to understand the process, the prevention process. This training is done over 2 days, online and face-to-face. And then there are a number of videos that allows the moderator to take ownership of the program and of the game. I'm sorry, the sound is very poor. Regarding the cost, the total cost of the game is quite high. It's about 50,000 euros, and it includes the creation of the game in digital format. As I said, there are boxes, so a physical format, but there's also a digital format. And in this cost, you have the 500 first boxes of game and 2 years of work. Copadict, in terms of the physical boxes, they can be sold. And the first session, Dependence and Addiction, is the only mandatory session. The others can be played. You can play the other ones independently, but one box is 30 euros with a special price for members, 20 euros. And then depending on the number of boxes that are sold, there are discounts. And the complete pack, i.e. the 5 boxes with the educational guides and the training, it comes at a price of 250 euros or 160 if you're a member. So these are the 2 pictures to show young people playing. If you've already played an escape game, you'll know what this is about. The young people who are playing are autonomous unless they have a major problem. But what is important is for them to be able to take a decision. For example, if somebody has forgotten his phone at a friend's house, do they go back even though it's very late, or do they go back the following day, etc.? And depending on their decision, they will take up cards and take one scenario or another. And the moderator can guide them through an educational approach to allow the young people to discuss how they felt, what they decided, etc. And as I said, there is also a digital version that is free of charge on the Copadict website. It's just a matter of creating an account, and you can have access to all 5 sessions. The digital format is slightly different, but it can give you a good idea of what Copadict is all about. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Sophie, for all your very thorough explanations and this presentation, this wonderful educational game. Well, this is a topic that impacts us all, addictions, and it is very important to be able to discuss addictions using a language that young people understand at a time that they are open to listening to us at the right place where that can happen. And that's very important. We're now going to have a short Q&A. We will be listening questions to the 4 speakers who have spoken so far. I can see that Thierry is asking about the following. The Norwest Co-op initiative is asking whether Norwest Co-op has any coordination or collaboration with the original Japanese co-op that they mentioned. Could you please tell us about that? Thank you, Thierry, by the way.
Hi, yes, we
Muchas
have
gracias.
so we have in 2014 we had some delegates from Japan attend our Hands Kai training in Quebec City, so they could see what the program looked like in Canada, and they did sign off on not only us taking a version of their program, but really modifying it well for a Canadian context, and they were quite excited about the work we had done. And we also had someone from Japan, one of their researchers, come and visit our co-op in 2018 and highlight the Hands Kai program for a paper that they were presenting. So we do stay in contact with some of the people from Japan around Hands Kai, really through the kind of the co-op, the international co-op body. Since COVID, we haven't had a lot of connection, but to our knowledge, Canada is the only one doing the youth Hands Kai and the family Hands Kai.
Muchas gracias. Cookie de
Thank you very much. Cookie from Spain is asking to say something. Please, Cookie, go ahead. We cannot hear you. You're muted. Could you please unmute yourself? What about now? Yes, we can hear you now. Please go ahead. I would like to show my solidarity and to greet everyone who is here at the meeting today. I would like to also congratulate the organizers of this workshop, because it's very enriching and we can all exchange experiences. So aside from congratulating all of these initiatives, I have a specific question that has to do with the program presented by our Canadian colleagues. I'm a fast speaker. I hope that the interpreters can follow me. Yes, otherwise just let me know. We people in Spain speak very fast, so I'll do my best to slow down because I know that it's difficult and I know that I'm being translated, but please go ahead. As I was saying, I wanted to not only congratulate you, but I have a question to our colleagues from Canada. You shared a very interesting program, this Hands Kai program. As part of our trade union in Spain, we have worked together with a foundation that helps to combat drug addiction. It's called FAD. It's a Spanish foundation. You might be familiar with it. It's also an international foundation. And as it promotes, it provides knowledge to young people, to teenagers about the negative effects of alcohol and drugs in general. So we have experience working with the FAD, creating not only teaching material, but also in awareness raising campaigns. And after listening to our colleagues from Canada, several things came to mind. Is this program only for university students or for high school students? So that's my first question. The second one is, regarding its methodology, were these talks that you held with students in the classroom, or do you have any specific material that we could use or that it might be useful for you to work on these topics? Third question, is there any pilot experience to bring this program to younger students, to primary school students? And I'm asking this because working in health and in terms of promoting healthy habits, what it means to be healthy in terms of nutrition, food, and to be able to work on drugs and alcohol, smoking. I think it's fundamental to touch upon all of these issues. In Spain, we can see that there's an increase in the use of drugs amongst young people and alcohol as well. So being drunk during the weekend is probably, well, the most normal thing in the world, because if you're not drunk, you cannot have fun. So this program that you presented, I think it's essential and very necessary. So it would be nice to promote it also outside of your country and be able to use these materials in all high schools in our countries. I would love to have it with me. And that's what I will do. It's a request, a formal request to our colleagues from the network. Please provide us with all the information necessary, and we would love to translate that program into Spanish so that we can disseminate it. And Michelle, to be able to talk to you in the future and to be in contact, because in my trade union, as I said, that's something that we've been working on with specific didactic units and materials that we use with students. That's what I wanted to say. So from a methodological point of view, what kind of materials you're using? What do you exactly do during those meetings with students in the classroom? That's it for me. So big hug to everyone in this meeting. I'm very happy to be here. Cookie asked like 4 questions. Sorry, I did that. It's a thing we Spaniards do. Okay, we'll now give the floor to our colleagues, and then we'll take one more question coming from the Ivory Coast, and then we'll go to the Americas. Please go ahead, Michelle.
Thank you so very much. First of all, I want to say we would love to absolutely work with you and share the information. As a co-op, that is what we do share. So if you want, through Louise, and Chloe, I can connect with you over email, and maybe we could set up a virtual call and we could talk about the material. We've mostly adapted the material from the Red Cross program and with the youth themselves. So we did a lot of like us with a group of youth, figuring out, here's a basis for what a session should look like, and what are the things that are missing, what kind of activities would you want, and then we would go back to places like the Red Cross or addictions foundations and figure out how we can get the materials to adapt the program, and then run the program with you. So I would absolutely be more than happy to share the information. We do it with high school students as well, grade 9 and up. And we actually want the older high school students to teach the younger high school students the same information. So yeah, absolutely, we do it with high school. We haven't done it with younger in the school system yet. We are hoping to, but we do have a program for them around healthy behaviors, and we do it in the summer when they're out of school. And so some of the feedback we've got from both the youth and the parents are that their kids' eating habits improved and they were having less screen time. So that was really positive. But yeah, we'd like to do it in the younger schools for sure. And yes, we can absolutely share. I'm happy to send any materials for you to adapt in Spanish. And if you want to set up a meeting, we can go through it one-on-one, and we can talk about what a session would absolutely look like. So, and if there's anything I've missed, please just let me know and I will answer it as best I can through the chat or through email. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now take one last question from this segment from Jan Victor from Ivory Coast, which is for Sophie. He's asking, how long has this AutoSend solution been in the market? Do you already have some feedback, and whether the methodology behind it can be applied to other kinds of addiction, such as alcohol or drugs? Please go ahead, Sophie. The floor is yours.
I can hardly hear Sophie. Her microphone is either off or there's a problem.
Yo creo que ahora
Et du coup, est-ce qu'on m'entend? Non, le jeu en fait a été lancé.
So the game was launched in November 21, so it hasn't been on the market for very long. We have used it in several schools. We have very good feedback for the time being, both in physical and digital format regarding methodology, whether it can be applied to other type of addictions. In fact, we talk about addictive behaviors. We make young people think about their decision making vis-a-vis the addiction behavior. So that's why we talk about other elements such as dependence, freedom, etc., and values that allow them to develop the psychosocial skills so that they can face all types of addictions. So all types of addictions are dealt with in Co-op Addict.
Bueno, vamos a pasar entonces a América con dos experiencias.
Thank you. We're now going to go over to the Americas. Eduardo Mendez, welcome from Uruguay, from the Social Security Bank in Uruguay, and he's going to discuss the education program on social protection. Thank you. You have the floor. Thank you, Elisa, and thank you to everyone. This is such a wonderful activity today, and thank you for offering us this space and also the invitation to discuss our experience. I'm going to share the screen if I can. So I'm going to introduce you to this person. He's called Felipe. He lives in Uruguay. He's 4 years old. And he lives like a child. He does activities with his parents. They're awaiting a little brother or sister. He's very close to his grandmother, and they do a lot of activities together and with other family members. And he also plays with his classmates. His life is then one of enjoyment. He's enjoying his childhood, and he goes to the playground where he learns lots of things. He learns about values such as solidarity, sharing, also learns about trust, like Victoria was mentioning, respecting others. What Felipe doesn't know is that he is helping the country at the age of 4 to teach social protection in all of the schools in the country. So he is the main character of our educational material aimed at children, or 4-year-old children. So he is involved in a project then that started in 2007, and this project addresses and tries to teach about the social protection and social security for other children, and also within the family. This was mentioned several times, how important it is to create a culture of social security. I think that we can all agree on how relevant it is in our countries and how each of the systems And of course, they're all different. They have their nuances, their own interests, their own profiles. Societies are different, of course. But it was mentioned several times how important it is to build a culture of social security. When it comes to building this culture, what does it mean for us? It means the efforts made by the institutions providing social protection and what they should do in order to open windows to the people who need this social protection. We've all had our own experiences, and each and every one of us is creating their own personal culture, collective, social, national, and so on. As people, each one of us generates our own personal culture through their experiences. And it's basically what we see through the window of every house. That is why the essence of our program is that we have to create this culture and we have to bring this meaning to the window of our citizens. That effort has been being made since 2007, so a few years now, and we have been trying to systematize the social security system. And this is one of the ways in which we have been trying to help people understand what social security means. There are other plans, but I'm not going to get into those at the moment. But I wanted to focus on this citizenship education program, Know Your Rights and Obligations in Social Security. So public, private, social security, informal, formal, it all exists in our country. So in 2007, you can see that is when we began this project in primary schools. This was aimed at children aged 11, 10, 11 years old. And it was based on lessons learned through the teaching, but also the assessment of the program. And then we were able to create this same program for secondary schools. And so we moved that on from 14 to 15-year-olds and then over to 17 to 18-year-olds in 2010. And this is the front page of the books. These are given every year free of charge to all children in school in our country. So in 2016, we decided that we could also help adults. We wanted to explain that it's not just about funding benefits, but that we can actually do so much. Therefore, we decided to create specific materials for adults. Specific materials were required for specific situations that adults found themselves in. So that means that from the age of 4 years old all the way up to adults, we are helping them to understand this. And this is involved in the informal and formal education system in our country. So currently, the scope of the program, we can see how many of the copies of the books have been distributed. And of course, we haven't done this ourselves. We have worked with the Social Security system, but also with the education community. The great partnership of the program has been possible, and that has allowed for sustainability. And that has been the public policy interest that has been shown in the social protection system and in the education system. We've also been working on aspects for children with disabilities, children with visual impairment. And I just wanted to mention a few lessons learned. And this, of course, has led to learning for us, both in the education system and in the social security system. We can see some of the activities that were held. We give talks and we go to schools and we try to increase the visibility of social security with the help of our technical staff and working alongside teachers and pupils. We are currently working on projects for persons with disabilities to help them integrate into the labour market. We currently have a law that is going through our parliament for the integration of persons with disabilities in the world of work. So we are working on these aspects and making sure that they know what rights they have. In addition, we are working with the population of migrants as well, and to make sure that they know their rights, because they have rights and obligations just like any other citizen. Another program that we have is to prepare for the social security culture and reform. We are processing at the moment a reform, and we hope that that will be finished soon. So in the long term, we have to look at the learning curve. This is just an experience of a small country. There have been difficulties, geographical barriers, and the sustainability of the program is ensured through the low costs. It only costs about $1 per pupil. And also opting for something physical, something that is able to be held in your hands, has really helped pupils take ownership of this program. And we provide something then for the physical world, because it helps us to analyze the attention, but also to create these tools which they can then take to their family homes, and it can actually serve to help the whole family. I would like to share a reflection with you. Today, our system is struggling to reach the balance that it must strike. We haven't always been able to cover all of our people. This is to do with the informal sectors, informal work. But today, the future of work is here. We must focus on today. We have a challenge. looking to the future. And these challenges are going to accelerate as we move into the future. So in the face of this difficult equation, this culture and link with social security and social protection can really serve our populations so that they know what rights they have and they can feel safe, but also show solidarity. I don't want to go on any longer, so thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, please let me know. All of the materials are on our website, and I can share any information with you that you require. Thank you. Thank you so much, Eduardo. The current institutionality really is important in that strategy. I think what is decisive for that is health, and that is what we are doing in the communities by sharing this knowledge. We are doing our best for society. So let's move on then to the experience of Ecuador with David Jaramillo and Fabián Vallejo. Welcome. They are going to give the presentation of the social protection program. You have the floor. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting us, and it's great to be here. And obviously it's in the afternoon now in Europe, but it's still in the morning for us in the Americas. Very briefly, I just want to go over the experience that we have been able to promote in Ecuador in the International Labour Office here. Victoria introduced how the ILO works at a national level, so we're going to share some elements here, and this includes progress, but also aspects that we are promoting for the government and social partners. And I think that we can all act to implement this culture. So I'm going to tell you a story. There are 4 steps. The first step is the context. We're going to set the scene of the current social security system and who are the vulnerable groups in society and where we have wanted to heighten our efforts in order to reach those people and to ensure they have access to social security. The second step is, after setting the scene, we undertook an immersion process in order to even better understand this with regard to their motivation, the barriers, their long-term concerns, their short-term concerns, in order to see what the best way of reaching these populations would be. The next step then was awareness raising. So meetings with institutional government representatives, but also direct strategies of education for social protection in Ecuador. And I will finish with the proposals that we are putting forward so that Ecuador can increase the institutionalization of social protection. So let's look at the context. So these groups are particularly vulnerable. They are not protected. On the one hand, I'm talking about young people, but on the other hand, I'm also talking about self-employed people. Young people tend to work in informal markets. There is a lot of unemployment, and in fact, only 2 in every 10 young people are members of the social security system. Less than 10% have social security cover, and in fact, the average is also to have less than 20% of the minimum amount for social security contributions. So, with this context, it is worth noting that the way to access the contributory social protection is through three schemes. On the one hand, they are paid employment workers, so they are employed. Secondly, they can access the system if they are self-employed workers. So there are a number of ways to describe this situation. And there's a third scheme, which is voluntary. But these ways to access social protection is driving the formalization of work. And in this way, young workers and self-employed can actually enjoy the rights that they have. So, given this backdrop, we move then to the immersion. On the first hand, we wanted to see both quantitatively and qualitatively what they think, what they see, what they feel. So, what we discovered regarding self-employed workers is that they're located in urban areas, on the coast mainly, but they often tend to be qualified, but they tend to have less education than others. They tend to work about 36 hours a week, and they tend to have average income which is lower than that of employed persons. So we discovered that these groups are very heterogeneous. There are about 4 groups. So from low income to high income, or ethnic identification, or the marital status. So it's quite a large world, which makes us think that the strategies for education on social protection must consider these different particularities in order to send the right messages. So with that objective to send the specific messages to these people, we created an empathy map. And this was done through study groups and interviews. We wanted to know what they say, what they do, what they think, what they feel, what are they listening to in social media and the television, but also what do they see and how do they see the world, and also the right to social protection. So just to give you a quick summary, when we talk to the workers with lowest incomes, the main element that they discuss is the lack of minimum income in order to become a member of the Social Security institution, because you have to pay that every month. And in fact, they often aspire to enjoy these services. On the one hand, there are health benefits, and one of the largest health benefit institutions in Ecuador, but there's also other contingency protections, for example, illness or work accidents, and so on. So there are a number of contingencies that are covered by our institutions. However, when we ask workers with higher income what their motivations are, what are their needs that are not covered, their aims and their barriers, we see then, for reasons that are linked to trust, come up again. Now this word rather is quite important. There has been corruption, there is little transparency, and those who have the highest income don't actually see an intrinsic added value to being a member of the Social Security Institute, and they compare this to the offer of private private insurance, especially with regard to private health insurance. So given these different considerations, we undertook some awareness raising processes or strategies in order to get the message out to young people, but also to self-employed workers and those workers who are in informal work. So the first aspect that we discovered among young people is that they don't all understand in the same way social security, and they don't all understand how to access and what benefits that they would get. And I think this is important. So in our analysis, we also analyzed what the path that young people follow in order to become members. So we wanted to know if there was something hindering that or what the reason was. For example, the website, perhaps it was an obstacle and that often puts them off. So we analyzed all of these different elements in order to consider a awareness raising project, and I'm going to use an expression in Ecuadorian. It is called Hablemos la Plena, which means let's talk all about something. In Ecuador, la plena actually means the best truth, the most sincere truth. If I say la plena, it means I'm being honest. And this is a very common word amongst young people. And when they have conversations, they often say that. They say, let's talk la plena. That means that they're talking about the truth. So where are young people today? They are on Instagram, TikTok, on YouTube, they're on Google. So we're trying to get or separate the message of the institution in order to focus on the right to social security. So I'm going to show you some of the examples, some of the posts that we put up where we try to provide information, and you can see how we try to reach all the different groups that exist in Ecuador, because in fact it is a multi-ethnic and a very varied country. There are Afro descendants, there are mixed race. So we wanted to try to reach all groups. So using Facebook and Instagram, of course, but also in Instagram, we have the live videos, the streams, where we can have sessions with young people. And the idea was that the very young people could actually speak to each other and talk about social security or related issues. So we implemented this strategy in TikTok, which is one of the most popular platforms internationally at the moment. I just wanted to show you some of these videos that we made, and perhaps you might have seen these videos or it could actually inspire you. So I'm going to mute so you can hear it.
Perfecto, ahora les voy a poner otro.
Okay, I'll put on the next one.
Perfecto. Otro tipo de estrategias que se
Okay, so another type of strategy that we used was a podcast. And of course, this is a communication strategy which is used by many, many people, and it's able to reach many people. And we held a conversation between a young person with another in which they talk about their day-to-day lives and what happens in their day-to-day lives.
Hola a todas las personas que nos escuchan en cada episodio de Hablemos la Plena. Este es un espacio en el que conversamos sinceramente sobre todos los beneficios que trae la protección social.
Como ven, busca ser un mensaje directo para los...
As you can see, this is meant to be a direct message to young people. So, and we also have other aspects, other types of podcasts to talk about specific aspects of the social security system. So, of course, if we only talk about social security, we can actually set the basis for building a culture of social security. So, in a more technical way, but not particularly difficult, but it's just an example.
Perdón, porque tenemos tiempo limitado
Would you
ya.
be able to finish up because we are reaching the end of the meeting? Of course. We have a website, a platform for young people. They can access and they can make a profile and they can connect with other people. And finally, and I will wrap up here, we have discussed what the government is doing, and we have a strategic plan to promote social protection culture. Training is important. Involving actors is important. And of course, we are also providing an innovative scheme for the government in order to extend the access to social security of informal workers, because it's important to provide that way in for those workers. Thank you. I apologize for going over time, but I hope that it was useful, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Siempre faltará
Thank you
tiempo.
so much. It was very, very useful. We could always do with more time, right? Because these are very practical information. That is why we're asking everyone who's listening in to please send us their presentation about their own experiences. And we will offer our website to all of you so that we can publish those materials and everyone can read about your experiences. Thank you very much for these last two presentations. Apparently there are no questions. Could you please help me? No, there's no question so far. Okay, so if that's the case, if you ever come up with a question later on, please write to us and we will do our best to answer all your questions. The next meeting that we, as a network of education and solidarity, is going to organize is about communication campaigns for society at large and how to advocate for this kind of social protection actions. Actually, Carmen was raising her hand. Please, very, very quickly, Carmen, because we need to move to the final session of the day. Yes, I have a question. You're muted, Carmen. We cannot hear you. Could you please unmute yourself? Yes, the last speaker, or all the speakers actually spoke about education and social protection, which is a multi-sectorial issue. And I don't think it's only about health. I'm not sure if we can be successful if we focus solely on health, because in Colombia here, the health sector is leading this process. But as we have seen, listening to all other friends and colleagues, this has to be multidimensional. So maybe we should be working on these projects from a higher point of view, not only focusing on health. Yes, well, Carmen, this network is based on education. So I believe that we have seen from our colleagues how central institutions such as the Uruguay Bank, as well as the Social Security School, these are organizations that are not specific to health, but rather offer a very different perspective. They have all contributed to this project so that these initiatives do not reside only on the Ministry of Health. Once we detect those risks, this should be a social intervention from all of us, but mostly from the educational area, which is what this network is active about. I'm not sure if anyone would like to say something more along these lines, just in a minute, so that we can give the floor to, well, the speakers from Africa who will tell us about the PASS program. Anyone would like to respond to Carmen? Okay, if that's the case, I think this has been clarified. So the education sector is helping us along the way. We can see in the different countries how different departments work together so that health, the Ministry of Health, is not the only one working on these issues, but rather it's a collective work. So now we're going to give the floor to our friends from the PASS program who will be telling us all about it. Lydia, I'm not sure if I'm mispronouncing her name. She will let us know what they're doing in Africa regarding communication from the point of view of public administrations in Africa and how we will know more about their projects. So, Jean-Victor, the floor is yours.
Je suis Jean-Victor.
Hello, my name is Jean-Victor Ayite, and I'm in charge of the social support program. I think that there is a slide presentation that should be uploaded right now. So we are a cluster in terms of health and social protection, and we started in 2015. And our main goal is to support the mutual solidarity development in West Africa and Central Africa. So we have created mutual insurance companies, and we've worked on the mutualist movement, and we've also set up different activities that we are not going to present to you right now, but we'll introduce you to these initiatives in the next meetings. So we've got several targets, and one of the targets we've worked on is the social protection for managers. So we started in Abidjan for the entire Western African region. So we started a master for managers. So it's a master, so slide number 4, thank you very much. And so we launched a new master for social protection and for managers. So that's for the public sector managers, and we'll talk to you about this next time. And this was due to a North-South partnership, so we were able to set up this new master in Abidjan for the entire Western African region. We also are working on the training of future administrative managers. So we go to the national administration schools, and we'll show you also what is being done in the different cooperatives inside different countries. It's wonderful to see how these farmers are able to take ownership of concepts of social protection. So we have a specific type of pedagogy for that. And also we'll present another amazing project in order to reinforce social protection pillars. And it seeks to train women who actually lead mutual companies or cooperatives in 9 countries. And so we want to reinforce their empowerment, their advocacy strength. And so this is all about mutualism and so on. So this is just to tell you a bit about what we are going to talk to you next time. And I hope that we'll have as many people as today for our next meeting. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias, de verdad.
Thank you very much. for that little taste that you gave us, and we will be adamant to know more during the next meeting. So we have come to the end of this session. We're very, very grateful to all the speakers for having shared with us all of their knowledge, which is so important when we all want to grow and to work hand in hand in order to improve the health and well-being of our peoples. The network is at your entire disposal for any kind of support activity or initiative or exchange of experiences that you're interested in. Please send all of that information to us. We will publish it on our website. I would like to also invite you to an event on October 18th and 19th. We will organize several meetings in Cartagena de Indias, and we will be dealing with this issue of solidarity, social economy, and specifically in the area of education. So let us all do our best to be part of those meetings because it's extremely important for us to get together so that this social economy and solidarity is more and more perceived as a solution, as a tool for improvement of the conditions that are necessary, that need to be met in our countries, quite similar all over the world, to ensure this social protection. We just need to obviously adjust it to our language, culture, and practice, which is what we try to do during this meeting. Thank you all so very much for your time and efforts, and we will be here for whatever you need. I would like to also thank the interpreters to help us overcome language barriers, and we will be here for whatever you need. So big hug to everyone, and remember, we're here to help you. Thank you, Elisa.